In today's episode,
they kicked all their users out. So, whoops.
The not-so-secret weapon of Cisco tech.
Dealing with numbers, with matrices and vectors and linear algebra and statistics and all of that.
Called RADKit.
It's free!
You can use your brain instead of typing like nutcases.
You're here to hear, folks. RADKit's going to change your life.
Welcome to Cisco Tech Stories. A podcast with real-life stories from real-life engineers. Your hosts are Nicholas and Tristan.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Cisco Tech Stories podcast, a podcast where we listen to outstanding stories from our guests from all around the world. We are your hosts, Nico and Tristan, technical leader in Cisco CX EMEA. And today, for the first time in the history of this now multi-year podcast, we are introducing an external guest. I am very proud to welcome Richard Atkin from ITGL. Hello, Richard.
Hello. My name is Rich Atkin. I'm from ITGL. Gold partner in the UK. I spend my time playing with wireless networks, and I lead our development team as well. So I have a bunch of programmers that work for me.
Cool.
Nice. So you do both programming and network engineering.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Nice combo.
Yeah, man. Keeps me busy.
And we also have another guest today, Fred Detienne, distribution engineer at Cisco CX. Hello, Fred.
Hey, how are you? So this is Fred here. My full name is Frederic, but everybody calls me Fred. I've been in Cisco for a very long time, and I used to develop or to architect crypto VPNs like DMVPN and FlexVPN. But these days I lead the product development of a RADKit, so Remote Automation Development Kit. And I guess that Richard and I have like a few stories to tell about that. So that's going to be interesting to hear Richard's use cases. I'm very happy about that.
Thanks, Fred. And this is actually the exact intro that I wanted to say. Today we are here to speak about RADKit, to see how it helps you with troubleshooting, how it opens new opportunities to do business for Cisco and our customers. Fred, as you said, you are the mind behind RADKit. And Richard, you've been an early adopter for well over a year, I think. And you're also working not only troubleshooting issues with your own customers, but you're also providing feedback to us, see how we can improve it. You've been a key helper in the way that we design it. When I say we, I should actually say Fred's team. It's been really helpful to have you. So you've been using it for a long time now, and I think you have some stories for us today. Is that right?
Yeah, I think I got introduced to Fred. I mean, a year and a half ago now, I guess, Fred, something like that. And you know what it's like in this sort of role. You just get introduced to people and they've all got a story to tell. And so I got introduced to this crazy guy called Fred, who started telling me about this product that I didn't really understand and didn't really see where it fit. And after 20 minutes or so, that conversation has basically changed the course of my working life between then and now. RADKit, for those that don't know, gives us remote access to our customers, but in a very specific way, and in a way that supports programmers, in a way that we can normalize, right? Cisco partners, our customers have every type of VPN and remote access and what have you, sharing solutions going. And it makes it hard for us to do our jobs well, because whenever anybody rings up, especially if we have new customers or new support people on the teams, we always have to say, well, how do we get into that environment? Who do I need to talk to? Where's the 2FA? Blah, blah, blah. RADKit normalizes all of that, and it makes us super efficient. And because of that, it's a super simple concept, really. We've been able to build products and offers for our customers and have real examples of how we use RADKit to to fix people's support cases or to address support cases faster and more efficiently. which is awesome, right? We spend less effort, customers get networks fixed faster. Like, everyone's a winner, right?
I want to touch base on that because, I mean, tech engineers, especially the junior ones, they just ask output, right? Hey, partner, can you get me this and that output? And it's like, should be easy, right? And in their mind, it's just you SSH to the box, you run the capture, and whatever, you have it. And then from experience of being on site, it's like a customer tells you, oh, no, but you need to connect to Citrix, and then we have virtual desktops, and only there you need to go through a jump host, and then VNC to another one before you can SSH to the switch. You're like, gosh. And then even if you get the file, it's like, how can I get the file out now? Because it's going to be a disaster. So for you, since you're a partner, right, you have multiple customers and each of them has their own requirements. Oh, we use VPN. Oh, we use this and that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a big pain. And like, I sit here as a partner, right? The customers aren't going to give me any sympathy. It's just part of my job to deal with their stuff.
Yeah.
They're just hoops I have to jump through. But I guess TAC have the similar issues, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of customers, and all a bit different. And so, on the face of it, an engineer saying, "Yeah, can I get this file, or can I get this file off 10 switches or 100 switches or whatever?" It's such a simple ask, but the reality of doing it at scale across all of your different customers, it gets hard and gets time consuming because there's no such thing as a normal network. Everyone's securing and architecting their networks a bit differently. But RADKit it's changing the game for us, or has changed the game for us in that regard, because it normalizes that way we can access our customers' infrastructure. It normalizes the way we can get into their environment, access their switches and routers and wireless LAN controllers and what have you. Now I just need permission. I don't really need to worry about, is it VPN this and Citrix that and remote desktop the other. RADKit is the way. And the customer has control of all the keys. They get to control when I can access their infrastructure using it and what things I can access and all that sort of good stuff. And they're really important, like tenets around how RADKit works. And it's important that the customer's always in charge of that. But I don't have to now worry about how that journey varies to get to someone's switch from customer A to customer Z. It's always the same. And that makes us more efficient, right? I don't have to ask my customer to be on a WebEx call all day with me or get on VPNs or what have you, which is really beneficial for us. And we had a support case in a couple of weeks ago. We had customer university rang us up. They got a bunch of access points, just randomly crash. Just a handful of APs will just crash every day. It's a very small percentage of their estate, but like it's an issue, right? We need to deal with it. We did a bit of work with TAC, known issue, but not ready to be addressed in mainstream code release yet. But they said, well, we've got a fix. Here's some code, but you need to SSH to all the APs individually and TFTP an image to the AP, then reload it, and then it'll come back with revised software and address the issue. Lovely, but the reality again of doing that at scale across hundreds and hundreds of access points doesn't really appeal doing that manually. But RADKit makes it super simple. We in that customer you can integrate RADKit with DNA Center, right? So you don't have to set it up to know all of your switches and wireless LAN controllers, what have you, one by one. You just integrate RADKit with DNA Center, almost literally hit go, and it pulls out all of that config for you. So like setting up RADKit super easy. So this customer already had RADKit, already had it integrated with DNA Center. So we already had connectivity to their access points. So then we can just say, right, let's just build a subset of the inventory for ourselves that's just got the APs in. And we can tell RADKit, run this SSH command on these bunch of devices, hit go. And it goes off and does it. And it doesn't matter whether I've got 2 things in my little inventory there, or 50 or 100 or whatever. RADKit deals with all of that, that scale and the parallel processing and all that sort of good stuff. And we get to see the process of, how much progress has been made through that inventory. And as those commands we issue complete, RADKit tells me about it. Which means that, in this case, it wasn't me handling this case. It was one of my customer and one of our support guys were dealing with it. They were like, well, we're not doing this manually. Let's do it with RADKit. They reckon it was going to take them hours and hours to do it manually. Dev team gets involved. We dust off some RADKit skills and we're done in like half an hour. And that's with lots of checking and waiting for things to reboot as well, right? RADKit made the whole process super slick, error-free, lovely. And the only reason we had to chunk up the estate and do it in little bits was because the poor little TFTP server, we couldn't throw all the APs at it, to download all the code in one go. It wasn't really deployed for that. So we did 20, 30, 40 APs at a time. Lovely. And RADKit was perfect for that.
There, I think I want to say a word for the defense of the wireless developers. There is normally we have a way to send out patches or service packs to all the APs, but that's only for official patches and official code, right? I think here you were facing a crash that was brand new, and
Yes.
it's like urgent. Like we need to debug it, and the crash files were not clear enough. Like we're not exactly sure. So as can happen, developers are like, okay, I could build the debug image for you that prints more debugs and or a tentative fix. Like I think I fixed it, but it's going to take a long time to normally validate it. As a customer, you're facing this crash every day. You can easily validate if that image is stable and if it fixes the problem. But the problem is that in wireless, the APs always run the same code as the controller. And there's an override. There's a way to manually install an image on an AP, which is not the normal thing you do. But like you said, it uses TFTP, right? So you can do it on one AP, but if you have to do it on more than one, you're pulling your hair already. So it's not planned for that, really.
Yeah, it's not. This is absolutely not a slight against controllers or access points or anything like that. We all work in this world of shiny new technology that never stands still. We're going to hit bugs every now and then, and that's a fact of life with technology. And RADKit in this case made it super easy for us to address that. With some support from TAC, who were really useful as well. I might invite Fred to say some words at this point as well, because as I understand it, TAC themselves are also being trained around the use of RADKit because they have the same problems we do, right? So hopefully everyone can benefit from this, not just partners.
Indeed, and so we've trained all our engineers. That was last year. There is actually now a refresh for that training. As we have increased RADKit capabilities, we've made a few things simpler. But the cool part of the story is that it really speaks for the reason RADKit was made. The job is full of exceptions. Whether you're an architect, whether you're a tech support, customer, partner, TAC, professional services, it really doesn't matter. The work is full of exceptions. Nothing goes smoothly all the time. There's always something a little tricky to do. There's always this data that was never collected before. I mean, sometimes that data is really very obscure and you need to bring it back, or you need to push a fix just like you explained. And all these operations are extremely frustrating. So, and that's exactly the honest reason why we made RADKit. I couldn't tell you, oh, we made RADKit for a specific use case. We made RADKit for the general purpose of dealing with exceptions, whether you need to reconfigure, whether you need to upload a patch, download core files if they crash, anything that you have to do on the network, from troubleshooting to network maintenance, you can do with RADKit. It doesn't mean that RADKit replaces every management station out there. There are specialized systems like DNA Center, like ACI Epic that do a fantastic job at managing the day-to-day. They have a really slick user interface made for the workflow. But these workflows, they are it's an 80-20 rule. And there's probably 20% of the job that is exceptional, that will happen only once, and we cannot have custom tools for every possible exception. So we made RADKit to deal with the exceptional, be able to script very rapidly, be able to address the network at scale. We built RADKit as the Mathematica or the MATLAB for networking. So for those who know NumPy, SciPy, all of these things, they're really great at dealing with numbers, with matrices and vectors and linear algebra and statistics and all of that. And you have these wonderful packages. But when it comes to networking, you always have to start with NetMiko, Paramiko, deal with a database of password, parallelize the code yourself, generate like a bunch of threads. None of that is async IO oriented, so that's extremely CPU intensive. So we really decided to have something that's light, simple, does not make any noise on your network unless you have an action to take. and ultimately that you can tune to your need of the moment with minimal amount of boilerplate code. So you can use actually the RADKit API itself, even as a Power CLI. So that was really the objective, and I'm super glad because every time I talk to Richard, every time I hear about you, you have like one of these fancy examples that just highlight the reason why we made it. So you're really a power user. I mean, your overall architecture, and not just for troubleshooting. I think that maybe you'd like to talk about how you address customers when you have initial contact with your customers, because there's troubleshooting, but there's also revenue generation, which I think is quite important.
I wanted to wrap up on the troubleshooting and ask the same question to Richard, because I like the 80-20 comparison you made. As a tech engineer, I don't necessarily want to always go RADKit and not talk to you, right? I first need to talk to you to understand what is the problem and ask questions. And then we actually have a lot of serviceability efforts. We have easy log bundle, things that are very easy to collect, right? You collect them when you have time, send it to me. We have tools to analyze that. But when you start explaining the problem as sometimes on some devices, and it's like, wow, this is going to be a mess, to isolate, like directly, okay, RADKit, right? We need to make statistics, connect to a bunch of devices, and like, this is just, like you said, anytime it's an exceptional workflow, let's do it. And that's for troubleshooting. But then you have daily workflows. Like you said, DNA Center has a lot of built-in workflows already, but that's like for daily life. But as a customer, I know there's always exceptional, like, oh, we need to change this, and it's not really in the product. I was curious how Richard, since you said you also have a team of programmers, I guess you have non-troubleshooting workflows as well.
Yeah, so you get these intermittent problems. They're hard to define. You don't really know where to start. You could basically guarantee that some show tech, whatever, some show command you get in isolation is not going to help you, and you find yourself needing a lot of output from a lot of devices repeatedly over time. RADKit makes it super easy for us to do that, right? Because all those devices are accessible to us programmatically, and it's super easy for us to write a script that says, right, here's a bunch of show commands, and they can be really generic things like just get a show run, or super specific things nailed down to a specific interface on a certain type of switch, or whatever. We can repeatedly run those commands and capture them. And another part of what Cisco do is involves a thing called Genie and these Genie parsers, and they allow us to convert SSH, human readable plain text stuff into structured data that programmers can use, right? In Python, in my case, dictionaries and whatnot. So after we capture these outputs from our devices, we use these Genie parsers to turn them into structured data. And then it's no longer text; it's an integer, it's a counter, right? It's how many errors were on the interface, or what have you. And then as we repeatedly run these commands over time, it makes it super easy for us to say, well, have these counters gone up, gone down, stayed the same? And that way, when we're running these same commands on lots of switches a great many times, super easy for us to say, yeah, it's this one, because we can see, really easily that the numbers are going up or going down, whatever it is we're looking for. The programming part of all of that is super easy. The value really is in the engineer knowing I need to look for this. That engineering sort of intuition about what thread to go and pick at is still super important for everything we do. RADKit just makes the engineer more efficient at being able to pick at lots of threads at scale repeatedly, every hour. It's awesome.
It's actually funny that you say that, because I sometimes get from customers, oh, but we already have like advanced services, HCTS or a partner. Why should I be bothered with RADKit? And my answer is like, well, you're paying a dear price for the service. Don't you want it to be more efficient? All right. Do you want them to connect to one device after another and just like dismiss the job yourself and have it done by somebody else? Or would you like it to be done efficiently by that person so that they can help you on 10 problems or on 10 workflows instead of one over the week or over the month? Oh no, of course I want them more efficient. Okay, then it's a simple answer. Look how much more efficient they become, right? So and all of a sudden it clicks. There is a business aspect that is very often forgotten. It's not throwing bodies at the problem anymore. We're instead of an engineer with a shovel, no, we have a digger. And I think that is what we were really missing. It's not a giant robot. RADKit doesn't troubleshoot on your behalf. You mentioned, Nico, that we still talk to customers, and it's one of the fears of the customers. Like, oh yeah, but how is the engineer going to do if I don't explain the problem? I don't want to go and mess up my network. And I'm like, no. This is just like, you still discuss with the engineer, you show the problem, you describe the problem, you have debriefs from time to time, action plans, like all that human communication stays. And you use WebEx for that, physical meetings, whatever is your poison. But when it's time to do the technical work, there's no need to make it painful. You just go fast, you get data, and then you can take proper action. Instead of having meetings to devise the action plan on how to collect the data, just have meetings to know, okay, what are we going to do with the conclusion? That's a huge difference, right? The amount of coordination that gets saved, the coordination time that gets saved is really big. And I also wanted to go on like the outside the troubleshooting, right? Because we were walking slowly outside of that. We have an example here where one of our engineers created an automation that deploys smart licensing. And smart licensing is like kind of a bit of a pain in the bottom, especially when you need to convert a massive network. And so we've had a few customers, and we have a bunch of customers in the pipeline who are asking us, can you please convert my equipment to smart licensing? And of course, nothing is a smooth sailing. You have to assess, does the platform support smart licensing? Are the line cards supported? Is the software to the right level? Can the smart licensing server be reached from the device itself? And there's plenty of things that can go wrong in such a simple ask, right? Simple action. And so we had one engineer investigating. So the network was huge, tens of thousands of devices. Our guy wrote a script that actually parsed the devices, gave an inventory of what could be moved to smart licensing and what could not, and the reason why. Like, okay, this device not supported. This device supported, but the software is not right. This device can't reach the smart licensing server, so run a quick test. Based on that, the customer sees the list and say, okay, can you convert those that are okay? Yes. 10 minutes later, this is done. All right, so that's the nice stuff. And then we start analyzing the reachability problems. Why can't the device reach smart licensing? And it turned out that over like 3,000 devices, there were 4 common problems. So you troubleshoot one at scale with RADKit. You then write a script to remediate that. I mean, again, you show the customer, well, this is reason number 1. All right, let's remediate that script. And then you convert again. And so this same automation that was used to convert the first batch of devices is reused again on the newly fixed devices. And you just don't hesitate. And so what a person did in the span of a couple of weeks, 4 people couldn't do it over the span of a year before that. So we're really talking like a massive simplification in the workflows, because we can scale. Simply, we can use your brain instead of typing like nutcases. And I think, Richard, you have something similar when you onboard a new customer, right?
Yeah, we, going back to your sort of 80-20 example, really, we use things like the Catalyst Center, slap on the wrist, Catalyst Center now for reporting. And it does an awesome job, but, 80-90% of the time. But we have a bunch of customers that say, well, I want to include certain things in my reports. I want one report with a whole bunch of stuff in, and out of the box, Catalyst Center doesn't do it. So we build those reports for ourselves. We set up RADKit, ingest all the stuff, rip off some very basic information. Essentially a show ver is pretty much all we need, and that gives us part codes and serial numbers and software versions. And then from there, Cisco got a whole bunch of APIs that we can hit that let us build out the rest of the story around those devices, right? Recommended software versions and end of lives and PCerts and field notices and what have you. And it all starts just from that RADKit. We get a bit of data, and then we can build out this whole picture, this whole ecosystem of data around every single serial number, part code, you name it, in your estate. And then from there, we build on those reports more with like the smart licensing APIs and EA workspace APIs and so on. And then it means that we can give our customers one single document that more or less covers your entire estate and all of the Cisco stuff, not just the physical bits and not just the licenses, all of it, all in one place. And it's a big old thing. And it takes a lot to get through it, right? people's estates are big and complicated, but it's valuable. It's super valuable, and our customers love it, and they keep coming back and say, well, can we refresh it every quarter, because we see value in that and that data. And the data itself, is all out there. It's all freely available, but being able to access it all and aggregate it, consistently, reliably, month on month, RADKit, super important for our ability to do that.
I got a question on the security, because it's the first question people usually reply with, oh, what about the security of RADKit? Because I'm giving away access to my devices. But I first want to tell an anecdote about that. So a customer for a very large worldwide event, I'm not going to name it, they were reluctant to use RADKit, but afterwards they had a network down issue. And that network down was caused by someone shutting down an SVI interface. So a major management VLAN interface was just shut down. And then, of course, it actually took a long time to figure out, because that management VLAN was down, so we lost access, etc. And it turns out that there was a single credentials, not even TACAX was used. A single credential was used, admin for a lot of network devices, and those credentials were shared in a WhatsApp group that contained probably way too many people, that compared to the list of people who should have, and then those people were concerned about RADKit security. So my take is that it's always going to be better than your real life actual security. But I wanted to hear, Richard, from you, if you had some pushback from people on security, and how you managed to convince them, or Fred, if you want to answer that.
Yeah. Well, I'll say a few things. So one of the, for me, probably the most important tenet around, like, security related tenet around RADKit, is that the customers are in charge. Whilst RADKit is, it's a Cisco developed, owned, operated thing, ultimately there's a piece of software that runs on our customer site, and their customers control that. That piece of software is your gatekeeper, right? That is where our customers get to say, right, Richard gets access or not. Richard gets access permanently or only for 6 hours. Richard can access these things or this specific thing or what have you, right? Super, super granular levels of control and role-based access control available within RADKit. And I would go so far as to say it is probably better than, I might go so far as to say, every single other remote access solution I've seen people implement. Because as a partner, we get a lot of VPN access to a lot of places. Generally, you get too much access to too much stuff. Whereas RADKit is a very specific. You get SSH to this device. You get the API interface on that device. It's super granular. And furthermore, I never need to know the credentials to get access to that thing. The customer is always in control of not only, can and when do I get access, but also the credentials that get used when I access that device. So those credentials exist inside RADKit on our customer site, and they, I sort of use them by proxy. I tell RADKit, please set up a session for me, an SSH session on a switch somewhere. RADKit handles all the credentials, all of the login stuff, and it just hands me the session that's been logged in. So from a customer perspective, I don't need to worry about, setting up temporary accounts, or maybe I should reset back that default account we use everywhere because I've had 58 different support engineers and project engineers through my environment. The customer is always in control of the credentials that are used to access the infrastructure. And lastly, just the audit trail side of it. We're all familiar with TACAX, and TACAX is great for like restricting my ability to type a certain command or what have you. But RADKit also lets me see, or lets you see, the customer see, the result of what was typed. So if I was using RADKit and I was on someone's network and I made a mistake, typed the wrong thing, there is a full audit trail of exactly not only what I typed but also what I saw. And you can really go back and you can evaluate my decisions that I made in every single step of the way. And again, all of those logs exist in the customer's estate. They're under the customer's control. I think that's it. It's fantastic. I think it's really comprehensive. I don't think we've ever had any serious pushback from our customers. Quite rightly, they do ask questions, obviously, but I don't think we've had any customers yet, like refuse RADKit or anything like that. We have been able to address all of their concerns around, which bits are encrypted, or how are the passwords secured, or where does the cloud stop and my on-prem start. We've been able to address all of that.
I thank you very much. Actually, I think in the case in my book, we've seen very interesting dynamics with customers where, when customers don't want of a product, they say, yeah, but security will never agree. All right. And that's it. End of the story. And here we've had the operations team talking to the security team saying, talk to the guys at Cisco, make it happen. All right, make it happen. And of course, when we or myself go on a call with the security group of that customer, we listen, we improve everything that we can improve. So recently, we've added, it's in the beta now, HashiCorp and CyberArk Vault. All right, as a storage for RADKit credentials instead of storing it into the RADKit database itself. But so we listen to that and we try to make it happen and satisfy the security requirements of the customer. But the operations teams are behind us and they say, you have to figure out how to make it happen because it makes our life easier. It's not just a matter of laziness or being easy in the sense of we'd like to hear it yeah, of course you'd like it easy, but why? And the truth is that there are economics behind that. You protect your network, security is there to protect your network against an aggression. Data loss is one of them, or denial of service, ransomware, stuff like that. And finally, the loss of reputation. So these are the three reasons you want security, the main reasons at least that you want security on your network. But it's a bit like airport security. If at some point your security is costing more than it's saving, like the attack would be rare or what would be the real impact, but every day you're wasting time, you're making every progress, every update, the management of the network complicated to a point where you're actually your own attacker. Security becomes a denial of service to a degree onto your own network. And of course, it's a bit of an extreme way to put it this way, but it's still quite right. And at some point, we have to figure out or strike the balance between the level of security you get, the actual risk, the exposure. And it turns out that RADKit has a pretty low exposure, or actually does not increase the exposure. What's the risk of me crashing the network as an attack engineer, right? I connect to customer equipment. I may crash the box by typing a command. But how is this not a problem if I give the customer a command to type and this command crashes the router? Does the customer become more responsible? Do I lose my responsibility into that? No, it's the same. And now if you think about the way we do today, let's say with WebEx, Zoom, all these applications, remotely controlling the customer computer is, in my view, a lot more risky than giving direct access to the devices. And as you said, Richard, it's limited, it's audit trail and everything. Whereas when you have a screen sharing session, there is no audit trail, there is no evidence of what happened. Be it simply for rolling back the operations and fixing the problem, right? Blaming somebody is one thing, but being able to roll back very quickly, say, whoa, that's a mistake we made at this point. Let's dial back on that. You have all of that data available, machine parsable, by the way. And you don't have to put your computer into the hands of an application or a person who might do anything, right? I mean, how do you know that the system is not scanning your email or stuff like that? RADKit only has access to the network device, not to your computer. You share the data you need to share, but not the entire computer. I think surprisingly, it's probably more secure to do this way. And that's an argument that a lot of people start seeing, say, yeah, okay, I see that. It's not only faster, and so we can recover of a bad situation faster. So the loss, all right, of revenue because of a degraded network is minimized. MTFR, time to resolution, but also at the same time the amount of system shared, the laptop in particular, is lesser. So RADKit demands less access than typical. You're not at the risk of seeing the customer email pop up in the corner and seeing confidential data that you shouldn't see, something like that. So yep, that's RADKit doesn't let you see that anymore. It's very interesting, and I would like to maybe add at some point. We have militaries now looking into RADKit. We have one army that has deployed RADKit, and another one, and we're not talking about like small nations. We're talking about like serious armies. They are looking into RADKit. One is actually evaluating now. The other one has deployed. We have financial institutions as well. I can't give any names, but if you had asked me 2 years ago how far and how deep RADKit would go, a lot of people said, we don't need this, customers are not going to accept. And I'm like, yeah, maybe financial institutions are out of reach. But it turns out that financial institutions are now looking into RADKit and they are deploying. I was on a call yesterday, and again, we're not talking about like a small bank, we're talking stable names.
And in fact, if I can add, and Fred, correct me if I'm wrong, but service provider as well are very well interested into RADKit. Many of them have deployed it. And if I can give an example of a service provider having deployed it, if you might remember episode 1 of this podcast, where we had to troubleshoot RF issues on a large cable service provider network. Well, the troubleshooting as well as the method to apply the workaround was entirely done through RADKit. If you might remember, if you didn't listen to the episode, go and listen to it. But we had to deploy a patch on thousands of line cards. Each of them required its own procedure. That in RADKit speech translated into a script that was about 50 lines long. So 50 lines of Python, which were very basic thanks to all the RADKit APIs. And that script took about, I don't know, maybe an hour to run, another hour to test and make sure that it ran fine. And then it deployed the patch on the entire network in less than an hour. So we are talking total maybe 3 hours to write, test, and run the script for thousands. I'm talking like 5,000 line cards on a very large network. So for us and for the customer, this was really a game changer. And we have many of stories like this now, thanks to RADKit. So this is really making the troubleshooting much easier, but also the operations much easier.
Yeah, and we have similar stories. And I want to talk about a totally different size of customer as well. I think, we'll work for big companies and like to engage with these huge customers and their massive problems. But a lot of my customers are not that. A lot of my customers are very small organizations with 2 and 3 person network teams. But RADKit is just as relevant for those folks as it is for the multinationals and the nationwide organizations. And we deployed RADKit to a customer a little while ago, and they made a mistake with their firewall that was terminating all of their VPN connectivity and kicked all their users out. So, whoops. And the option was either, right, I get in the car and I drive to site and I plug myself in. They say, well, we deployed RADKit by luck, literally a week before they made that mistake. So we used RADKit, and RADKit was integrated with their firewall, and they were able to fix it from the inside. And so they fixed it faster without getting in the car. They got everybody back on up and working. It's not like a huge sexy use case, but it's practical, and it shows that RADKit is relevant to the day-to-day run rate problems that people have, not just the 1,000 switch problems and the big complicated stuff that we get excited about. It's useful for everything. It really is.
It's really cool to hear, and so I mean, I'm super thrilled because it's working beyond expectations, or at least, how can I say? High hopes, low expectations, and the hopes are being met. So it's really really thrilling. Super glad. So you touched on VPN and the complexity of VPN. I think that we need to maybe explain what the problem is with VPN. So I've been a VPN guy for many years, and if you had asked me if I prefer a VPN access or let's say, another type of access to the network, you work remotely, and I really very much enjoy my VPN. But the complexity for business-to-business VPNs is that you have to prevent route leaking. So both customers, company A, company B, will use the same RFC 1918 addresses. So, not everybody is on IPv6, far from it, especially in the enterprise world. So all these 10 something address, 192.168, and so on, they overlap. So you have to perform network address translation as soon as the VPN is up, because a 10 address on customer A is not the same as the 10 address on customer B. So you have to expose all of that. Then you have to create like access list rules. You can access this network, but not that network. But as soon as you renumber, or replan your addressing scheme, well, you have to go fix all the policies of all your B2B VPNs. So that's another complexity. You have to share passwords. You have to give credentials in your Active Directory or TACAC server to the company that delivers the service, right? So all of that preparation is really huge, is really big. You don't want to maybe leak or propagate all the addresses of company A into company B. You want to keep some privacy there. RADKit does not expose any of that. It simply says Richard has access to device A, B, C, D. It could be one device, it could be 1,000 devices, it can be, so we have customers now with 30,000 devices in their database. It's not uncommon, and we're bumping up these numbers as we speak. So the database can take it, but the user interface was getting a little sluggish, and we've improved the performances for large customers like that. But whether, like I said, there's one device or 30,000 devices, it's a click of a button to allow somebody to access a resource, and it's a click of a button to remove access. And you can even say, Richard has access for 2 hours, and then the account is automatically disabled. So that's the kind of thing that RADKit helps with. It streamlines a whole set of operation that can cost in the tens of thousands of euros or dollars when the service is initially set up. And we see it with our massive customer, like our high tier customers. Setting up that VPN is alone a price deterrent. It's too expensive. RADKit kills that. The whole onboarding process is simplified.
Fred, is it worth, I know this might be a trick question, I guess, but is it worth talking about how people buy RADKit?
Go ahead.
It's free. There's no part code to buy RADKit. If you're a Cisco customer and you've got support on your stuff, you're entitled to use RADKit. It's an efficiency tool, right? Get more out of your investment in the money you've already spent in Cisco by deploying RADKit. It costs you nothing, and use it. It's not just a TAC tool. It's not just a partner tool. Customers can use it themselves as well.
You're absolutely right. I completely forgot that. Sorry.
I was pitching it to school teachers so that they could share their lab between Cisco academies, and they were like a bit interested, but I said no, but it's free, and they just wouldn't believe it. And now they're testing it, and they're like, oh, it actually works. There's no limitation. It's actually free. Like, are you kidding us? Yeah, no.
Okay, I'll put a little more value on the table. So not only it's free. So let's not talk about the ROI because the investment is null. But so you have the security part. You have the ease of deployment. You have the price. Let's go back to the other part of security. Let's say you want to develop an application using RADKit. As long as you maintain RADKit to a decent recent release, like ideally latest greatest, you're guaranteed that all the libraries, third parties, open source libraries that we use, they are updated. So we monitor for CVEs on all of these applications. So Cisco has really exhaustive processes for that. We get a notification whenever an alert is triggered on any of our dependencies. So our whole supply chain is monitored. And if anything is detected, like even a minor alert, we get a notification. And the higher the severity, the more urgent the response has to be from us. We have SLAs. So then we will publish a fix, like, isolate the library, issue a notification if it can be fixed soon, whatever needs to be done. But you will know exactly what your exposure is. And if you don't receive any news, then there's no known exposure. If maintaining a service like that, just updating libraries, it will cost anybody to do it really well, probably about $1 million a year in terms of resources to maintain your libraries up to date and not suffering any of that. So that's another element. If you do it really well, right? We're aiming for SOC 2 compliance as we speak, SOC 2, ISO 27001, all of that. So that's work that you don't have to manage a complex set of libraries. You can use RADKit and you benefit from all the underlying libraries. And the other good thing, and you mentioned education, I think it's really cool. People who want to learn Python, especially network engineers who want to get started with automation, the amount of boilerplate is so little with RADKit. I mean, in just a few lines, you literally get started. You connect to the equipment, you get the data out of it, and you can do that in just like literally 3 lines of code. Something that with Netmico, Paramico would require hundreds of lines of code just to parallelize, manage the password. I mean, we're talking about maybe thousands of lines of code if you want to do it well. So most people don't do it well. They do it quick and dirty. Say, yeah, it works, but it's difficult to scale up. It's difficult to really create a product because you have to create all this code infrastructure before you can get to the logic of what you want to achieve. With RADKit, you go straight to the logic and you spare yourself the boilerplate and the whole infra and the security at the same time. So all of that is taken care of by RADKit. And if you use RADKit the way it should, you're literally building secure from the start. That's it's very interesting to notice. So if I were at school today and you know we were talking about that schooling universities, use RADKit. Don't bother about anything else. Use RADKit to at least get started. If you want to evolve to something else, you know, if you want to use YDK for Yang, if you want to use Paramico because we really want to do it by, you know, to roll it manually, you can do that. But if you start with RADKit, you'll learn Python, you'll achieve results real fast. So essentially your whole DevNet education, the stuff that you have studied and never put into practice because it's just overly complicated, well, you can put it into practice with RADKit without the boilerplate. I hope I'm selling it well.
Yeah.
You heard it here, folks. RADKit's going to change your life.
So,
Yeah. And where do people need to go if they want to get started with RADKit, Fred?
there is only one link. It's called radkit.cisco.com. I guess we can put the link in the podcast or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, radkit.cisco.com. Everything is there. Documentation, download a RIA, like a pitch explaining the overall system. So you'll see it in action through a short video. Yeah, radkit.cisco.com is the place. So
And I think you had several sessions at Cisco Live as well. So if you want to watch the replay, you can go on Cisco Live and watch the on-demand library. You will have the slides and the presentation with many different use cases for RADKit.
yeah, actually, that's thank you for reminding me. So we had 2 sessions, big sessions at Cisco Live. We had like a number in the previous years, but this year we had 2 massive sessions. One in Amsterdam, which is exactly the session as I was hoping to deliver it. It covers RADKit in 90 minutes. You see everything from, like, you know, we start in the middle, like how to use RADKit, what does it bring to you? What if you open a ticket and you have RADKit, like a service request with attack? But then we go through installation, through security, through the APIs. We cover everything. And this, the audience was very quiet. A few questions here and there, but mostly we delivered the session the way we envisioned it. And then we delivered the same session in the Americas, so Cisco Live Las Vegas. And in that room, the room was on fire. I had question after question after question. I don't think that I managed to deliver the presentation in any order that makes any sense. We just went along with the question. So it looks like a massive Q&A. So if you want to watch both presentations, in one you'll have like a RADKit presentation, well structured and everything. And if you have questions like, but what if, I recommend you watch the Cisco Live US version, and you'll have like lots of questions addressed. So that, you know, two different deliveries, 2 sessions, really worth the time, I think.
I could probably embarrass Fred slightly. You know, you guys kindly said that me, the rest of ITGL have been you know important in the development of it and have provided feedback. To Fred's credit, he is probably the most open guy to feedback, criticism, you name it. We've spent many hours on the phone together over the last year or so, coming up with all sorts of ideas and often things that Fred and the team haven't thought about yet. And we're using RADKit in ways that it wasn't originally designed to be used for. And our experience of working with Fred and the team has been fantastic. The guys are super responsive to feature requests, or me just asking dumb "how do I" questions, because even a year in, every now and then you just need a second opinion. And Fred and his team and their helpful nature has been instrumental in our adoption of RADKit. It really has.
Thank you very much. I will return the compliment to you. You're very easy to work with. So thank you very much for that. And I think it's important to mention, I'm not the only person behind RADKit in Cisco. I only happen to be the product owner at the moment. But we have a really solid team of developers and the tech support team of RADKit itself. We have what we call the contributors, so external experts, of whom Nico and Tristan are, who really took RADKit. They saw how to use RADKit and they put it into practice. So it's a massive team of people who are motivated about changing the way we work. I hate to pitch it because it's like self-service, but the truth is, one day I'm going to lose my job as an innovator. One day maybe I'll get too old, or my department will be cut. I'm sorry, may sound a little gloomy, but that day I want to go back to taking cases because I really enjoy the work. It's a great way to keep learning, and so I like the job. And the day I go back to cases, I would like to have a RADKit because I don't want to waste my life on a WebEx. I want to talk to people, to discuss with a human. I don't want to have to remotely control their computer and painstakingly capture data. So that's the goal.
Thanks a lot to both of you for your time and your nice explanation on RADKit and the stories that you build around it.
Thank you, everyone.
And you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Cisco Tech Stories podcast. You can subscribe to us on Cisco Podcast Network and SoundCloud, or in your favorite podcasting app. You can also find us on X at Cisco Tech Story without S. Thanks again for listening, and speak to you next month.
Log if you to save the day, troubleshoot the easy way, automate without delay, tasks done fast and fun, hooray! No need to share your whole screen, RADKit keeps your data clean, secure and safe, it's the routine, helping hands always unseen. RADKit, magic tool, makes work easy, makes it cool. Save time, save stress, that's the rule, with RADKit, you'll never fool. Push a button, tasks done for everyone, works more fun, feeling safe is number one. RADKit's here, let's have some fun. Troubles come, they'll all be gone, with RADKit you can't go wrong. Join the team and sing along, making work light as a song. RADKit, magic tool, makes work easy, makes it cool. Save time, save stress, that's the rule, with RADKit you'll never fool. Push a button, tasks done for everyone, works more fun, feeling safe is number one. RADKit's here, let's have some fun.